President.
Senator from Ohio.
I ask unanimous consent to dispense with a quorum.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. Every day, Americans get up, go to work, do their job. It's time that all of us in the Senate do ours. We have 5 outstanding nominees for the Federal Reserve. They're ready to get to work fighting inflation. And that fight's all the more important now as Americans brace for possible impacts at the gas pump and throughout our economy from Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Vladimir Putin has made it clear he doesn't care whom he hurts in his maniacal quest for power. He has no problem attacking innocent Ukrainians defending their country and wanting to continue their freedoms and their democracy. He has no regard for hardworking families in the United States and Europe and across the world who can't afford higher energy prices. Our Senate colleagues of both parties, led in part by the presiding officer today, Senator Murphy, has so far shown a united front against Putin. We're united in the need for punishing sanctions against Putin and his cronies. But along with these sanctions, it's our job to do all we can to make sure Putin's invasion does not hurt hardworking Americans. Let's be clear, this body, this administration, this Fed will do all it can to combat inflation. And when it comes to spikes in energy prices because of Putin's warmongering, our resolve is strong, our commitment to democracy is certain. This is not the moment, Mr. President, for political stunts. As we deal with the first land war in Europe since World War II, as we confront inflation, as we work to continue our economic growth. In fact, in the past year, for the first time in 2 decades, America's economic growth is stronger than China's economic growth. Our rate of growth exceeds China's. As we emerge from this global pandemic, everyone understands we need a full Federal Reserve Board. The first one in nearly a decade. It's been since 2013 before we've had all 7 members of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is, in some sense, the Supreme Court of our economy, as one Nobel Prize-winning economist Joe Stiglitz said. Americans don't want more political theatrics. They want solutions to take on Putin, to protect our national security, and to bring down costs. There's no more reason for delay. These nominees have met with every senator, 5 nominees. These nominees have met with every senator who asked for a meeting. These nominees met with staffs of senators who asked. They offered to meet with many of my colleagues who refused to meet with them. In a couple of cases, met with them and were pretty combative, but that's okay. But my colleagues, these nominees did everything we asked of them, and then my colleagues boycotted the vote, something I have never seen happen, not just since I've been chair of the Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs. I've never seen it since I've been in the Senate where one party boycotted a vote and stopped that vote from actually happening as a result. These nominees answered every question posed to them at the hearing. They answered every question submitted for the record. In one nominee's case, she answered almost 200 questions in a 48-hour period. Before the deadline, then more questions came in after the deadline. She still answered them. One nominee, all of these nominees have cooperated with both parties in making sure that we can move forward. If we're going to continue to grow our economy, we need all 7 Fed governors in place. We need these professionals working, debating, making decisions about monetary policy and interest rates and jobs and tackling inflation. We need these professionals to do the Fed's critical work of something we hadn't really thought much about before, helping prevent cyber attacks in our financial system. And Mr. President, let me single out one of these 5 nominees because she has great expertise in an issue the American public is more and more concerned about. We know, and we've heard discussions in the media of Putin's potentially having interest in cyber attacks against our country, against Europe, against us. Sarah Bloom Raskin, this is the moment for her in her record and expertise. She helped lead efforts in both government and the private sector. She was co-chair before she was nominated for the Federal Reserve to be vice chair of supervision, a key position to weigh risk of cyber attacks, risk of climate change, risk brought about by many banks not having the capital that they've held that they should. She served as co-chair of the G7 Cyber Export Group. She's a former Fed governor. She was number 2 at Treasury. She ran the banking. She was a banking commissioner in Maryland. She's elevated this issue of cyber attacks and cyber attack risk on corporate boards. She's played a pivotal role in helping craft the Obama administration's efforts to combat cyber threats in the financial industry. She's the leader we need at this critical moment on all of these issues, especially cyber. Let's get her on the job. Let's get all these nominees on the job. Dr. Lisa Cook, Dr. Philip Jefferson. They understand workers and communities that make our economy work. Dr. Cook, born in a small town in Georgia, graduated from Spelman, went to Oxford to study as a Truman Scholar, PhD from Berkeley. Dr. Philip Jefferson grew up in the shadow of RFK Stadium, grew up with not a lot of material assets, worked as a young man at the Federal Reserve before he went back to school and got his PhD. He's now dean of a prestigious school in the Carolinas. They understand, as I said, they understand workers, they understand communities. Chair Powell and Governor Brainerd, the 2 nominees that have already been serving on the Fed, they led the Fed's extraordinary effort to support our economy throughout the pandemic. We need a full Federal Reserve Board. We need a united front to make our economy stronger, to take on inflation, to take on Putin. I implore my Republican colleagues, just show up. Vote no if you want to vote against these 5 nominees. That's certainly your right. But we don't come to the Senate where they hand us a paper and say, check a box, yes, no, or I don't think I'll show up and do my job. No, you vote yes or you vote no. I just implore my colleagues on the Banking, Housing, Urban Affairs Committee to show up, to cast their votes, and we will then move forward. We need them to make our economy stronger, to take on inflation. The world's looking at us now. We're still the leader of the free world. To play these political games while in the midst of this awful attack, this potentially growing land war in Europe, to play games on the committee and withhold your votes and not show up to work. Let's show the world what a functioning democratic government looks like. Let's get this done for the people whom we serve. Mr. President, I yield the floor.